All right, we are here today to talk about another one of Terry Goodguy's books in the Sword of Truth series. We're going to talk about book number 6. I believe it's called Faith of the Fallen.
AKA Atlas Shrugged Fantasy Edition.
Yeah, basically. Atlas Shrugged slash The Fountainhead. There's a lot of both of those books
Yeah,
in this
yeah,
in this particular book.
yeah,
But
definitely.
if you really want to get down to like the basic plot synopsis, it is basically a rehash of the second book, to be
Yeah,
honest. Um, so again, Richard gets captured for like the entire book, and he gets separated from Kaylin, and Kaylin becomes a ruthless like warmonger who makes all of these like very ruthless and practical decisions as she leads the army.
all of
Um,
her parts in the book are my favorites. I was kind of bored by basically most of the rest of the book.
I thought it was okay. Like I thought it was all right. Like I was not super bored or anything. I know this is basically Atlas Shrugged, but like a version that is not as well written, but it has like fantasy stuff in it.
Yeah,
But I thought it was okay. I was not hating myself going through this book. But compared to the other books, is this as good? I'm
you
not
still
sure. It's
there?
definitely. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I think I lost my internet for a second. Yeah,
Oh yeah. So the book basically starts off. I would say that Richard becomes disillusioned, and because from the last book, Kaylin gets beaten into a bloody mess, and
mm-hmm.
she's recovering from that, and he goes off in the mountains to twiddle his thumbs while Caitlin is like recovering.
Yeah,
Um, he also believes that the war against Jigang, or the order, is futile, and he just wants to basically wait his days off in the woods with
right.
Kaylin. He goes back to his homeland, but he gets completely rejected. And we see that even in his homeland, the order is beginning to influence like the entire world or whatever you want to call it. Parallel to this story, we have a what do you want to call her? Like a black sister named Nikki,
Yeah,
who,
basically.
for lack of a better term, has become nihilistic. Um, so she doesn't feel pain anymore. She feels like she has no meaning in her life, etc., etc. At the same time, like Jigane has the hots for her, but she's like, fuck it. Um, so in order to cure herself of her nihilism, she hatches this plan, but she doesn't even know what the plan is. The only thing she knows is that she wants to capture Richard and pose as husband and wife for some odd reason. Like there's no reason. We're not given any justification or reason for which this action takes place. The only thing we're told is, "Oh, I need a question answered," but we don't even know what that question is.
Yeah,
So
I
it's like
think
a completely ambiguous reason that he gets he gets
the only
taken.
possible reason I can think of is that she hates men because her dad was evil, even though he treated her well. And in her flashback sequence, they established that she still liked her dad, and she actually didn't like her mom, even though her dad was supposedly a bad guy.
Yeah, her dad was a capitalist, and her mother was like, I guess a socialist. I guess in
Yes.
this book or in the world
So
of
in this,
the world of Sword of Truth, helping self-sacrificing for others is considered evil. Would you agree that that's kind of one of his messages in this book? I think we lost you here. Well, continuing on while he sorts his internet issues out. Um, so we have Nikki. We do get a little bit of her background and how she was raised. And her mother was very devout and grew up in the ways of the order. Uh-oh. Andrew has lost connection. I hope he gets in back in. Jagang. That's the name of the evil villain of this book. He is a dream walker. And his name is Jagang. It's a weird name. But anyway, we do get a little bit background of Nikki, the Stark sister. Um, her mother likes to help others and is self-sacrificial. Her father was a workaholic capitalist. And her mother kind of basically beat the philosophy into Nikki as I don't know if you want to even call it a socialist. It's kind of a mock version, like a cartoonish version of what you would call a socialist. It just does not make sense. Like basically, he would have. I think he's also making fun of religion, or at least critiquing religion as well. So that's another thing that gets critiqued by the author: religion and social pressure versus individual freedom and rights. So that's interesting. All right, we're back.
yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened there.
You were about to
I have
say
my
something. Yeah.
Yeah,
We were talking about Nikki and how she was brought up, and then you had like froze there.
oh yeah. I was just saying that we were talking about how her mother's a capitalist, so in this world that makes her evil, basically. Or
Well,
I mean, her
the father was
mother's
a
a
capitalist.
socialist. Her mother's a socialist, so in this world that makes her evil, basically.
Well,
Other way
his
around.
Good Kind's view of socialism is very like cartoony.
Yeah.
I also believe that Good Kind doesn't like religion either. That's kind of why he intertwines religion in, I guess, the philosophy that's supposedly evil.
Yeah.
Because
Basically, faith bad and individualism and reason good, especially if you religiously adhere to it.
yeah, it's cartoonishly awful.
Yeah.
Apparently, charity is evil, according to Good Kind there. But I
Yeah.
kind of get what he means. I think he's talking about involuntary versus voluntary, but even that doesn't make sense in his world because in his world, even in the old world, like you weren't forced to work. That was like your choice or whatever. So
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't get it. It's not like in a true socialist or communist system where everybody is assigned by a central power and put to work.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Anything like
so
to like real real hardcore Ayn Randian libertarians or just Randians, anything that the government does is basically socialism or communism. There's no distinction between socialism, communism, Marxism, social democracy. There's no nuance whatsoever. It's all just bad.
Yeah. And I'll have to say this book, out of all the ones I've read so far, is the most heavy-handed in its political stance.
Yeah, it's
Like,
definitely the most preachy.
yeah, it's extremely preachy.
Yeah.
So yeah, he gets taken back to the old world, and through his travels, I guess Nikki's just like giving up her whatever money they're making to charity and helping folks and whatever. Of course, Richard thinks this is bad. Um, anytime that Nick, but even then, she makes like some questionable decisions as well that just make no sense. Like, oh, let's sell these really nice horses for way below market price for no really good reason. Like, even the innkeeper that she was selling them to is like, really? Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Um, so throughout this, so on this, the other side of the world, we have what's going on is Nikki has basically entrapped Richard by creating a magical link between her and Kaylin. So if whatever harm that Nikki receives, Kaylin also receives. So that means if Nikki is killed, Kaylin will also die.
Right.
One of the things that was really annoying at the parting scene between Kaylin and Richard is just the fucking dialogue just went on forever. And they kept repeating like the same shit over and over.
Yeah.
I was like, Jesus, come on. Like, this does not need to be like 10-minute monologuing at each other. Like, it's very much like an Atlas Shrugged where I felt like characters would monologue at each other. And
Yeah.
I definitely got that feeling here during the parting scene where they were trying to go over different ways how to defeat this. And she was like, "Oh, let me kill myself so that you could be free." That's like so fucking dumb. It's like the
Yeah.
dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Um,
That, and
so
they both do that. Kill myself so you can be free. No, I'll be a slave so you can be free, even though we can't be together.
yeah. So after this incident, Kaylin has like a chip on her shoulder, and she goes back to the armies and starts to lead them. She literally uses the same exact fucking tactic she used from book two, like verbatim, which is, oh, let's attack them while they're sleeping and let's run their horses off a cliff. She did that exact same shit in the second book. I was like, really?
Oh, I didn't remember that.
Terry, you couldn't come up with something else? Like, come on, guy. Like, this is the
Yeah.
same exact thing that you had in book two when Kalen was leading the armies. But there were some thought things that happened that I thought were pretty interesting, like the whole idea with this glass powder is basically kind of like World War II mustard gas, like this deadly ass shit that you're kind of fucking everybody up because I think it blinds everybody that comes in contact with it. Like if it gets into your system, it just really fucks up your respiratory system. Um, so all the stuff on Kaylin's side was pretty interesting. Like there was a lot of battle on her end, like large scale battle. But you
Yeah, that
also
was
had
cool.
this
That's one of the
feeling of,
reasons that her parts of the book were some of the only parts that I liked.
yeah, and so her parts were were more geared towards war and commanding armies and just being a ruthless as fuck commander um, with questionable morals. And I would say for sure she has questionable morals.
Yeah.
The thing that cemented the questionable morals to me was when they captured that one soldier who had escaped, or the soldier that came from the city that Richard was in, and he basically assassinated Warren, which is like one of the characters that has been in the series since book 2. It's like a
That's
young prophet.
is that Richard's brother?
No, Warren is a young prophet from um, that Richard met while he was in the palace of the prophets. He was also got married to Verna, which is the prelate. But he got killed by this guy,
Okay.
and basically, um, Kaylin said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna torture you," even though there's no real benefit or reason to do so. The only reason she did was out of spite, which I don't see that as a morally good thing to do. Um, so I thought that was morally questionable. Something that was morally questionable that Kaylin did. I was like,
And the one of the ways that one of the reasons that that doesn't work as well as other authors doing it, like George R. R. Martin or Joe Abercrombie, is it's not done in that much of a believable way because it doesn't like you were alluding to there. It seems like she would have a reason to do that sort of thing, and she would do it, but she would have to. It would have to be desperate circumstances for her to do something like that, but there's not really a good just motivation for why she does that.
because they extracted all the information they needed from him. And after he basically spilled the beans, letting her know that where Richard was and um, like what the current state of Richard was, she had Sarah torture him. So even after she got what, and he was like begging to be killed, and she's like, "Nope, Kara, do your best." So I was like, "Oh, okay, I see now. She's just like morally questionable now."
Yeah.
So we had like a couple big deaths. Was Warren? He was killed by an assassin. They weren't able to save him. Another person that was killed, which is pretty interesting, was General Rybish. He was killed like pretty early in the book, which they promoted some other general. There was an interesting political intrigue that happened where, wow, Kalen's half brother, he's like the Prince of Gilead. And he tells Kalen that he's not going to go along with their plan. Kalen basically calls him a traitor. And as he's trying to go back to Gilead, I believe somebody kills him. And on the spot, and she tells like the sisters, because he got killed with magic. She doesn't know who did it, but she told them, "I don't want to know who did it." Like she was kind of anguished by the decision, because apparently her half sister was siding with the order because she had been like tortured and she's being cautious or whatever. So we have that debacle. But as far as Kalen's story, uh, what did you think about that on the whole?
On the whole, yeah, I thought it was interesting, like the parts where she's involved in battle and war and that kind of stuff. And yeah, just I mean, I guess I like we were talking about before. I didn't find the all the like romance stuff with her and Richard to be that compelling, particularly because uh, Terry Goodkind has done these sort of tropes before. Oh, I can't be with you, even though I I love you, but I can't be with you because magic, which is I think is a good trope if done well and can work sometimes. But I think I was telling you and Tristram this, a lot of the same, Terry Goodkind is recycling a lot of the same tropes this time. Like that's one of them. We can't
Mm.
be together. One of us loses our powers. Richard all angry and stuff. There's some sort of prophecy and they have to find some way to defy the sort of prophecy so they can be together, and someone's keeping them basically hostage, something like that, to prevent them from being together. These are all tropes we've seen many times now in these books.
Yeah, this is the second book basically retold
Yeah.
with different plot elements.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
completely, it's same like I said, even to the same battle tactics that Galen used. Like they
And they
were
did it,
exact
and they
same.
did a whole similar thing with a similar prophecy, even in just the previous book before this one, too.
I don't even remember what the prophecy was, if there was one.
It was,
I think the prophecy was, oh, that they were going to lose the war or something like that.
and that Richard and Kaylin couldn't be together, but then they figured out a way to circumnavigate the property, or the prophecy rather, because she went into the underworld slash death world and then came back, so she technically died. And then because the woman who wanted to be with Richard uh, killed herself. That plus Kaylin having technically died by going to the underworld allowed them to get back together. It's just really fucking convoluted.
Yeah. One of the really funny things about this book that I just realized, the guy who she had tortured is the same guy who magically fucked her through, what's her name's link. Yeah,
Oh, really?
the guy that fucked, what's her name? The sister of the dark.
Uh,
Nikki.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because she got
Yeah.
mad because Richard wouldn't give her the business. So she just grabbed some random dude and pseudo cucked Richard. Um, while Richard was getting pseudo cucked, it's like so convoluted. Because they're supposed to be husband and wife, right? And like at least the pseudo cucking happens when he refuses her advance for sex, and she grabs some evil asshole in the hallway, and he like rape fucks her, and then also like Kaylin is also raped fucked, and
Hmm.
I think her vagine was like bloody for like 3 days or some shit like that.
Yeah. There's like
Um,
fucking brutal rape in all of these books, and it seems like one difference between the way that and the way it's done in even like Game of Thrones slash A Song of Ice and Fire in the books particularly is that it's awful and you don't want it to happen, but it seems like the reason it happens is due to organic circumstances. It always seems like Terry Goodkind is trying to just throw in women get raped in there because that's really terrifying, and that's the only thing I can think of for something bad that can happen to women.
well, there's a sexual assault in every book. I don't
Yeah,
think there's a single one of his books that doesn't have a sexual assault. So that's how he frames evil characters. They
yeah.
have to be like rapey. Like the last book had a rapey leader of that city, and this one you have this rapey dude that goes
It's
and kills Warren.
Jagang. It's Jagang who's in like a rapey
Jagang's also
relationship with
rapey.
Nikki, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's also rapey as well.
Yeah.
Um, so, um, so yes, she has the guy that tortures. She was magically raped by him, but he didn't know that he was magically raping Kaylin. It just so happens that they met. And then she finds out that it wasn't Richard, and she's happy because the magical sex. She was afraid at first that it was Richard who had gotten with Nikki, and she was very happy that it wasn't Richard, even though she was
Hmm.
still magically raped,
Yeah.
which is so weird. Um, so after she gets this information, she goes and marches off to the old world where Richard is. All right, so going back to Richard, they finally land in this town. He sees that economically it's somewhat dysfunctional. So he basically becomes a middleman minority and starts his own transport company. And he makes like a shitload of money. Um, but the workers there are very
Yes, but he's being
unhappy.
a successful capitalist, right?
Right, a middleman.
Yeah.
All, at the same time, there's also unrest amongst the workers because their wages keep getting like taken from them, and there's like a revolt that happens, but Richard isn't really part of it. Everybody wants him to be the leader, but Richard doesn't want to take part in that. He tells like his friends not to take part because they're just gonna get killed. And his friends listen to his advice. So Lardo, and I don't even know his name, but the blacksmith who gives him lardo all the time.
Right,
Lardo is
right.
actually real food. I looked it up.
Is it
It's
just
a thing
lard?
that exists. It's like fat. It's pig fat from like the belly area.
So it's just lard, right?
Yeah, well, it's lard. It's like animal fat. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, Richard's in this town, and they're like, "Oh, socialism is fucking everything up." That's basically what Terry Goodkind is trying to convey.
Right.
The art is like all fucked up and twisted and evil. Um, and there's like religious dogma as well that kind of oppresses the town. So after this thing happens, Richard gets arrested, and they don't even know why he gets arrested. He gets arrested because he gets reported by the guy who magically raped um, Kaylin.
Right.
Like all these pieces just fit together in ridiculous ways, but he gets reported, he gets to prison, he gets tortured, and they tell him, "Oh, if you pay a fine and if you confess an infraction, then we'll let you go." So then all of his friends gather up some money, and it's like a shitload of money, and they get him out. But in the process of getting him out, um, they have to make sure that he. I think what they do is they take all his money and as a before because they want to make sure I think he's useful or he has some type of use to the empire. Nikki volunteers him to be a carver, and this
Oh,
is where
right.
the
Yeah, that's
plot
a big
starts getting
aspect of
weird.
this. His carving.
Yeah,
That's one aspect of the book that I actually did like how they talked about how uh Richard has like magical skill at carving, and it's a really important part of the world, and art has a great significance. I like that.
yeah. So Richard, you kind of establish early on that he likes to carve. I think mostly he had been carving wooden figures, but
Hmm.
everyone who had seen his wooden figures said he was an exceptional carver.
Right.
So he has to carve like these demented zines every day. And one of the leaders goes up to him and punishes him by forcing him to pay for a commission himself. He has to pay for the materials and he has to work extra hours to get this carving done. And he gives them the model of what he needs to make, which is like some type of grotesque statue. Like everything they make is grotesque and weird and fucked up.
Yeah.
But Richard is like, fuck that, I'm gonna do my own shit. And he's concealing this. And we also see that Nikki is like slowly falling in love with Richard.
Of course. Everyone who meets him falls in love with him, right? Because he's the
Right,
main
Richard
character.
could do no wrong. He can do no
Yeah.
wrong, right?
Yeah.
So she looks
And
forward
he's
to him
always
coming
just
home every day.
fucking jacked with broad shoulders and corded muscles without ever working out, apparently, at least that we ever see.
Well, I guess when he's hauling like those metal bars to the blacksmith, I guess that's working out.
Yeah,
And
true.
he got reprimanded at his job because he was working too hard.
That's why he's the libertarian hero. Hard work will set you free.
Yeah, that's not always true, but
That's the ideology.
yeah. So anyway, yeah, hard work will set you free, but he's exceptionally like physically fit compared to other people in this world. We do see that he has some kindred spirits. One is the blacksmith, and the other is the former owner of the warehouse that he used to work at.
Mm-hmm.
So literally most of his time here he spent as a warehouse worker, a transit, like a delivery person, and a carver. So he gets like these different jobs that we get to see him excel at. The final job is kind of the most prestigious job he gets. And he seems to hate it. And one day he comes home, and then this is the day after he's forced to commission this horrible piece of art. And he goes home, he's like dejected. And Nikki was about to kill him. She was about to stab him to death. And he kind of like woke up and was like in a chipper mood. And she was kind of flabbergasted at that like complete mood change.
Right.
I had no idea why she was going to kill him. It seems completely weird and arbitrary that
Yeah.
as soon as his mood went bad, she would like immediately wanted to kill him. I was like, yeah, you're not going to wait like a week to see if it keeps up like that. But yeah, he hatches this plan.
Yeah. I don't think Terry Goodkind is particularly good at writing female characters.
No, he's not particularly good at writing any characters, to be honest.
No. Or their
Even though
dialogue.
I thought, I don't know if it's the dialogue. I'm just saying the way that the characters speak just seem unnatural.
It does. I
If you ever
remember
listen to the audiobook, it sounds weird. Like
yeah.
as the dialogue is just so unnatural sounding.
We were talking about how in book one, they I think it was when Richard and Kaylin first meet each other. They say,
Friends.
"Hey, we should." They both say at one point or another, "Hey, we should be friends. Let's be friends. Aren't we good friends?"
Nobody says that shit. Like I've never, like any of my friends, I've never said, "Let's be friends."
Yeah, me neither.
Aren't we? That's like weird and ridiculous.
Like maybe
Uh,
maybe a
well, at least he
6-year-old would say
ditched
that.
that. Yeah, at
Yeah,
least he's ditched that because it's obvious that in this book Richard does have some friends,
yeah,
but he doesn't do the let's be friends thing. It's like what the fuck? Nobody talks like that.
yeah.
But I still think it's a bit unnatural, just to be honest. Um, so Richard builds up this community of people who adore him, and his plan is to unveil the statue, which is not the statue that he was commissioned to do. So he works very hard on it. I think it's the day before they're supposed to present it. Nikki like goes to his workshop to see what he's working on, and she sees the statue and she has like this eureka moment of like what do you call it? She has an epiphany, a complete epiphany. She reevaluated her whole life after gazing upon the statue. Um, she now knows that her ways were evil, and this statue has magically like indoctrinated her into libertarianism.
Yep.
I also forgot to
Now I
mention about
see you can't provide handouts to people. It makes them slaves. The power of the individual and freedom and truth and responsibility will make the world into a utopia.
yeah, there is a mini John Galt speech, and I mean mini, that happens when Richard is presented before the statue in shackles. But
Yep.
before that, I was going to talk about Nikki. There are some funny moments, but one of the interesting moments is when Nikki is like helping him to like get out. She finds his money stash and she immediately thinks he's a criminal and that he's stolen all the money. And she goes to the blacksmith and she's telling my husband swindled you, he tricked you. And he's like, no, he's made everybody rich. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Crazy ass lady. And it's funny too, because after that, the blacksmith like talks to Richard. He's like, oh, your wife is basically a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah, that's just my wife. That's what he says. But, yeah, she thinks that, um, it takes a lot of convincing for Nikki to not let Richard rot in prison. Like, because after she found the stash, she was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna leave him in there," until like all of his friends convince her that no, he's not a thief. Like we gave him this stuff willingly because he made us money, you know. So yeah, as she gets out, and I think she gets sexually assaulted before she gets to visit her husband.
Hmm.
Because I know the guard, like, I believe he like fingers her and fondles her breast or something like that.
Yep. Something like that.
Yeah, some sexual assault, casual sexual
Yep.
assault that Terry good kind of likes to sprinkle in there. Um, but yeah, going back to the final scenes of the book, I did think there was some ridiculousness surrounding the statue. It's like the statue gets unveiled and immediately people start like bawling and like speaking tongues and fucking having seizures and shit after they look at the statue. I was like, what the fuck? Like, really? The statue is that powerful that just a statue with it's a man and a woman and it just says life. That's all it says on the statue. Apparently, I don't know. In my head, I'm thinking, oh, it must look like a statue of David or something like that. And then I looked at the cover of the book. I was like, oh shit, here's a statue that's kind of like depicted right here.
Right.
I was like, yeah, the crowd is like crushing. It's like this. It's creating like the South Korea crush at the place where this statue is being unveiled, and like people are standing around all night trying to get a glimpse of this statue. And apparently, anyone who sees this statue gets converted into libertarianism or something like
Yeah.
that.
Religion bad, but let's have this religious symbol convert people to the ways of libertarianism.
Yeah, so this is, I found this particular part of the book, this act, very much in vein with The Fountainhead,
Yeah.
which is another Ayn Rand book. But you have Richard, who's basically hard work, and he
Yeah.
creates like the masterpiece. And I think it gets destroyed like shortly after, but he makes his like John Galt speech, and then the weak ass sorcerer like can't even bust the statue up with the
Yeah.
sledgehammer.
Yeah.
Richard starts laughing, and I think the whole crowd starts laughing at him.
And then he does it and he easily destroys it.
Yeah, he destroys his own statue, and like the crowd gets really upset. A mob forms, and then they start to attack the soldiers and whatever. Um, so you get a convergence of characters here. Kaylin has arrived. She's seen the statue. But there's like a little battle that ensues. So what happens is Kaylin or Richard tricks Kaylin, and he doesn't. I don't even believe he knows it's Kaylin. Does he know it's Kaylin? Yeah, he knows it's Kaylin while they're fighting. But he lets her stab him, which is a plan that sort of backfires because as Nikki goes to heal him, she gets captured by some dude that she was supposed to have killed in the beginning of the book, but he survived. And he starts torturing her or whatever. But Kara saves her. And they go to Richard. Richard struggles with one of the religious leaders. And I don't even know what the fuck happens to him because the religious guy like need Richard in his wound, and he just kind of blacks out.
Oh, right.
And then the next time we see Richard, he's like being healed. I was like, what the hell happened to the guy he was fighting? I guess he gets away or something. I have no fucking clue.
Yeah, me either. I didn't even notice that plot hole there.
Yeah, he just kind of disappears. Like we don't. I guess he fled or something. But anyway, because he gets saved a couple different times. He got saved once by one of the sisters, and she gets stabbed through the chest. And then, yeah, eventually, he's like somewhat mortally wounded, and Nikki shows up, and she's like apologizes for everything, and tells Richard that she has seen the light and now believes in Richard's libertarian ways. Um, um, and Richard's plan was for him to become mortally wounded so that Nikki releases the magical bond from Kaylin so that she would be forced to heal. But the funny thing is that Nikki had already decided like a day before that she was going to do that. So Richard's whole plan to get himself stabbed was kind of in fruition. It was like it's something he didn't really need to do. So at the end of the book, um, I guess they kind of banish the evil socialists from the city, and everyone is going to live their lives for themselves. I don't know how long that's going to last, considering how they are in the old world. It's not like Jagane can just show up with a shitload of soldiers and murder everybody.
But the important thing is that they're in the noble utopian libertarian circumstances, so they're truly free. See,
Yeah, but no, they weren't slaves either, so it's not like,
but they were slaves to socialism, though, bro.
yeah, but they could have gone to a different city. They didn't have to stay there. Like, I know the ideology of the empires doesn't make sense to me personally.
Yeah, me
It's kind
neither.
of, it seems hypocritical and ridiculous.
And
Like,
contradictory.
yeah, contradictory, hypocritical, just doesn't make any logical sense, like the way that they operate. I get that he's trying to say, oh, this is like communism or something, but everything has to be fair. Oh, we're all about fairness. Everybody has to have like be treated equally. I'm like, okay, sure.
Mm-hmm. What did you
Yeah,
say? Didn't you say that Zez says something like that equality is slavery?
yeah. So Zad basically, in a conversation he has, he equates charity to slavery,
Right.
like sacrificing yourself for others is slavery,
Uh,
um, which is fucking stupid because that's what a parent does with their child.
yeah.
The parents sacrifice their time to make that child's life better.
Parents are all slaves to your children.
They are, but there's nothing inherently wrong with that.
No.
Um, but yeah,
Well,
it's
and it's
this
not
book
like
is so
it's not like
heavy-handed.
if your daughter said, "Hey, I'm gonna have cake for all 3 meals today," you'd go, "Okay, no problem."
No, no, there's definitely rules. I'm saying like as far as sacrifice goes, I have to
Yeah,
work more extra hours and have more responsibilities
you have
than I
to
have
provide.
because I
You
have
have
a
to make
child. Yeah,
enough. You have to have enough time. You have to devote the time and money to taking care of them and turning them into a person.
right. I guess in the libertarian ideology of this book, he wants to give parents choices to abandon their kids so that they can be free. Like I don't
Oh,
fucking get it.
that sounds like a Stefan Molyneux kind of thing. Listen,
Yeah,
you got to get those toxic people out of your life who don't understand what real arguments are, man, because they're evil.
yeah. So yeah, of course, like evil. There's a lot of talk of good and evil in this book, but to be honest, um, I kind of find like Nikki to me didn't seem that bad of a person outside of her personality. She had like some moniker that was like, what was it, like Queen of what, like Death Queen or some shit like that.
Oh, I forgot about that.
But when she was with Richard, she didn't seem evil to me. Like she did some fucked up shit, like like pseudo cucking Richard and with that
Yeah,
petty shit, and trying to say that Richard was evil for making profit. Um, but I didn't like as far as like evil, because usually in the evil in our kind of modern moral sense of what is evil, um, it would be putting yourself uh, above everybody else. Like, what would you consider evil in the modern sense of what evil is?
Hmm. Like harming others for this just for the sake of harming others, and maybe you enjoy it, or maybe you think you're doing the right thing, and you're basically you'll basically pursue your goal at any cost, and you'll do terrible things to fulfill your goals.
Yeah, so it's basically, yes. I would say Nikki did do a terrible thing by abducting Richard. That wasn't cool. Um, but yeah, she's definitely a nihilist. She was a nihilist, but I didn't think like her philosophy was particularly evil. I didn't find the only people that were like kind of evil were the people doing like sexual assault shit in that city. Um, like the head dudes that were like contracting the statues, how they were like screwing over a lot of people. And I know they killed like a lot of the carvers because of some witch hunt. Um, but I think Richard saw that a lot of the people weren't evil. He kind of got a realization that these people were inherently evil.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
but man, this was a heavy ass handed book.
Yeah.
So there were probably a lot of other ridiculous things that happened in this book. I just it's hard to keep track of all of them. But it was a 30-hour audiobook. I don't know how many pages were in this book.
I actually ended up listening to the audiobook too. I was confused. I thought I had a physical copy of this one, but I didn't, so I listened to the audiobook too.
Oh, so you found it somewhere?
Yeah, someone had posted it on YouTube.
Oh, I wonder if it's the same one as Audible, because the guy that reads like anytime there's dialogue between characters, it just sounds super awkward.
Yeah, it tends to sound that way.
But that's been in all of the audiobooks. I don't know if it's a symptom of the narrator or if it's just completely awkward dialogue.
Mm, probably both.
But anyway, I did see that you gave this a pretty low rating um, on Goodreads. You gave it 2 stars.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one of my least favorites because I think there are other books that have worse story elements, worse plot, worse character development, worse dialogue and whatnot. But this one, like we talked about, it just bothers me that it's by far the strongest heavy-handed libertarian speech and and polemic. And yeah, just all that heavy-handedness I just thought was so fucking terrible and cringy.
Yeah, the political message is not one that I was fond of in this book. I know Richard's entire journey was basically predicated on the political philosophy of the author.
Hmm.
Um, that's the only thing I found that his segment was to serve that political philosophy. It's almost like he was trying to write an Ayn Rand style novel steeped
Yes.
in his own world. Like, yeah, his other books had elements of libertarianism, but this one was just so heavy-handed.
Yeah,
Um,
and like yeah, like you were saying, there were bits and pieces of this stuff before, but like all of the specific stuff that happens and all of the like all of the monologues that the characters were giving, like you were talking about, is a good example. And particularly before, I don't remember hearing Zed give all of these speech all of these speeches and monologues so much about the virtues of libertarianism, basically.
right. But you remember the speech though that I'm talking about where he was like, "Oh yeah, sacrificing yourself for others is akin to slavery."
Yeah.
That's what Zed said.
Yeah.
Like, wow, okay. Um, it's like, okay, so there's a burning building. You just let those people fucking fry, you know. You see a kid walking through a busy street, like, yeah, I'm not gonna sacrifice my ass for that kid, because they can get hit by a car or whatever. I live for my own self-interest, and that's it. And that's basically Randian philosophy in a nutshell. And then it's almost a subversion of what is considered evil. Because I know typically selfishness um, is considered an evil attribute, you know. But
Not in Randianism.
no, they kind of flip that up. Self-sacrifice is evil,
Yep.
and
Egoism is
and
good.
yeah, it's a completely. I would. The problem is they're steeping it too much in evil and good. And there's nothing about trade-offs or any shit like that. It's so it's so dichotomous that there's no nuance in this
Yeah.
philosophy.
Yeah.
The only reason I gave it a three because even though it was heavy-handed, I did find it pretty entertaining. I found it kind of funny that he was kind of rehashing Ayn Rand, like Atlas Shrugged, and this is basically his attempt to stuff in Atlas Shrugged and the Fountainhead into the plot of his story.
Yep.
But I wasn't that bored reading the book. I thought I was gonna be fucking bored. But the worst book, which I thought was book three, I still think it's far worse than this one. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. I think if I recall correctly, I agree with you that that one was the worst. And I think if I remember correctly, I liked book 2 the most, and I think you did too.
Yeah, book two. And that's kind of like why I don't discount this book. Like, even though it is basically a rehashing of the second book with a heavy-handed libertarian message, um, that's probably one of the reasons why I thought I gave it 3 stars instead of two. Because I think I gave book two 4 stars. Book two is actually pretty decent.
I think that's the only one in
Um,
the series that I've given 4 stars to so far too.
yeah, so you gave it a two. I gave it a three. I rated it slightly higher, and I think I rated it slightly higher because I was genuinely interested in getting to the end of this story
Right. Yeah,
and seeing
our
how it
ratings
unresolved.
have I think our ratings have been for the whole series so far, our ratings have been either exactly the same or 1 star difference. I think maybe you even, for example, disliked the first book more than I did.
Yeah,
Or
my rating was lower than yours for the first book.
yeah.
I gave the first book on the first reading. I gave it 2 stars, and then I think I bumped it up on the second reading a little bit.
Oh, okay. I
Um,
think if I remember correctly, like I told you when I first read it years ago, when I wasn't well read in fantasy at all, I think I probably would have I think I probably gave it 4 stars or so. And then when I reread it this time, I gave it 3 stars. And
okay.
what was the one? I think there was another one maybe that you liked even less than me. Like there maybe it was book 3. Maybe it was that maybe
Book
I
three
gave it
was the one
two
that I
stars.
hated.
Is that the one that you gave 1 star and that might be the one that you gave 1 star and I gave 2 stars. I think.
Yeah, book three is by far my least favorite of the
It's definitely
books.
mine too.
And I gave it 1 star. I just
Yeah,
thought it was boring.
it's it's not a good book.
No. I think, is book three the one with the nipple magic or whatever? Yeah, I think that's book
Oh
three.
yeah, I think it is.
So stupid.
Yeah.
Such a dumb fucking book.
Yeah, it really is.
Um, but yeah, I thought this was better than book three. And not marginally. I would think it's much. Book three is just so fucking bad for me
Yeah.
that any of these other books are just that much more better than it.
Yeah. You know, if you could do half-star ratings on Goodreads, I think I would probably give book 2 1.5 stars and I would probably give this one book 6 maybe 2.5 stars.
Yes, yes. So, as we get down to brass tacks here, this was the book that we were going to decide what the hell we were going to do with the series, or if we were going to cover it anymore jointly. What are you thinking here about this series currently?
Yeah, I think I kind of want to bail on it now. The 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 really hardcore libertarian screed really killed me. The like I was still able to tolerate the series with, you know, some of the bad character plot work, some of the bad character development, bad dialogue, etc. with the, you know, the obvious libertarian aspects, but it wasn't so heavy-handed, but it's just all of those bad aspects together that make me not want to read any more of the series.
Yeah, I think I might touch upon it in the future, but I'm not forcing you to continue on in that. The only problem
Yeah.
I have with this particular this particular series is that the audiobooks are only available on Audible, but you apparently found it on YouTube, right?
Yeah, you can find some of them on YouTube. People have put some of them on there.
Yeah, I'll have to see if I can find the rest of these on YouTube because there's no way in hell that I'm spending any more Audible credits on this series. It's
Yeah,
just
definitely
not.
not worth it. Are there 10 books
No,
in this series?
I have no clue. I know there's a lot, and there's like spin-off series too. So I don't know, man. But I hear, from what I heard, this book is like a jumping off point for a lot of people. Because a lot of people get, um, basically the heavy-handed preachiness of this book deters a lot of people from continuing on the series.
Dude, I just looked it up and there are 23 fucking books in the Sword of Truth series.
Didn't Tristan say he read all of them?
Holy shit. I thought he said he read 10 of them. Did he really read 23? Wow.
We'll have to ask him about that. That's fucking
Holy
crazy.
shit. Wow. Oh man.
I know there's probably that many books too in the genre series as well.
Yeah. I would read all of those, or at least that's one of the series that I've been wanting to reread recently and probably will sometime fairly soon.
It's okay. It's just, I hated that Scott Brick narrates those books.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's just fucking annoying. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
I might have
Scott
to
Brick
read those
lovers.
as the few physical copies that I have, and then maybe the rest as ebooks if I can find them.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Scott Brick lovers, but fucking, I just can't stand his narration. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's terrible.
He's like super prolific, and he is terrible. I
Yeah.
think Eric Hunley loves him. I was like, how do you like this guy?
Yeah, he
I know
talked
he's
to him.
interviewed him.
Yeah, he talked to him on his podcast. And I thought, but why do you like his narrating? I don't get it.
Yeah, sometimes it works. It's okay. Like I thought it was okay in like the fifth, like the later books in the Foundation series were okay. Because sometimes he dials it in, and you can tell he's not really trying. But there are some times where he does actually try to create different character voices. And the problem is a lot of times he doesn't try.
Right.
Or he's just way over too fucking over dramatic.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Like Tyrion's voice in its Song of Ice and Fire books is like fucking Scottish for some reason.
and I don't know, Scott Brick makes every character sound like a pompous, fucking aristocratic blowhard.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
So, I don't know. I think I might revisit some sort of truth in the future because you know me, I like to punish myself with bad books. I know I
Yeah.
got to try to get you to read The Fifth Sorceress. Unfortunately, the Audible credit that I purchased was for an abridged version, and they
Oh,
edited
right.
out
Yeah, you were
all
telling me that.
they edited out all the bad parts because I was like, okay, let me go check out some reviews. 'Cause I don't remember any of this shit that people are talking about. And then some
Hmm.
guy like held up the book, and I was like, oh shit, that's a really thick book. There's no way in fucking hell that that's a 5 hour audio. So I went and did some research, and yeah, the Audible version is abridged. But I'm
Oh,
kind of
okay.
pissed because I felt like I wasted an Audible credit on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've told you I found that I can read an ebook version of that on that archive.org website.
Yeah,
So I
so
could
I'm
read
probably gonna
that.
have to read it like in a legit way because I don't think there's any full audiobook of that book.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm willing to talk about to read and talk about that one if you want to. You said that one is widely
It's supposed
hated
to be
too.
worse. It's supposed to be worse than any of the Sword of Truth books. It's
Holy
like
shit.
it's
And Daniel Green
yeah.
said that, you said?
Daniel Green said it's the worst book he's ever read, and he also said it's
Holy
worse than
shit.
Wizard's First Rule.
Wow.
Because when I listened to the audiobook, I was like, yeah, this is like mediocre. It's not fucking horrible or anything. And I gave it like 3 stars. I was like, what's the hype? It wasn't that bad. And then that's until I discovered that all the bad shit got cut out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know as well as I do that often a lot of the hype about things, whether it's positive or particularly negative, is not as well deserved as people claim it is, but sometimes it is. And I know you like to investigate the boogeyman you more than I do in that way.
Yeah.
So
And some of the
yeah,
boogeymans that I investigated from Daniel Green ended up being like awesome. So sometimes there are some gems because he hated the Nevernight
what just
Chronicles.
happened?
Oh, you can't hear me?
Yeah, I think I got cut out again there for a sec.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that Daniel Green hated the Nevernight Chronicles.
Yes, and we loved all of those. Those were great books.
Yeah, those were fucking awesome books. And then he hated some Dresden books that I really liked.
Yeah, he didn't like the series until the sixth one, I think it was, right?
He was gonna
He didn't.
quit at the sixth book because the sixth
Yeah.
book was actually one of my favorites. But the sixth book is when, um, well, the sixth book is when Harry cements his relationship with his brother,
Right.
But that's also the book where he's like a porn producer or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
I guess
And in the
Daniel Green
first,
got really offended by that.
I think in the first 5 books, I I think I gave 2 of them 5 stars. I don't remember which ones it was. I think it was 2 and 4 or somewhere in there somewhere. But I gave several books in that series 5 stars, and 2 of them were within the first 5. I think.
Well, the very book that he hated, I gave that one 5 stars.
Right.
I really liked that one.
It's good.
So, yeah, but I'm thinking that this fifth sorcerer, once I get like the full version, I don't know if it's because, like I said, I gave it 3 stars for the abridged version, so I don't know if that rating can drop if I actually read the full version with all the
Right.
bad shit cut out. So we'll see.
It's funny. I wonder why they made an abridged version. I wonder if they did that to deliberately cut out the bad parts because it got such a negative reception, or I wonder
I
what the
have
reason
no
is. If
clue.
it's nothing to do with that.
I don't know. I have no clue. I know that, like I said, I thought it was a 3 star book after I listened to it. So I don't know. Literally, I thought it was better than the worst Sword of Truth book. That's for sure.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah, that's not hard to beat.
yeah, it isn't. I was expecting it to be like the worst of the worst, and I was like disappointed that it wasn't the worst of the worst. So, we're probably gonna skip like the what we've been reading, watching, mainly because sort of on time here tonight. Because I'm gonna have to wrap it up here pretty soon. But yeah, our final verdict for this, yours is 2 stars minus 3, and we are not going to do a continuation of the series, at least in a joint form. I might do it at a much later date, but it's not going to be a priority for me. I need to make sure I'm reading good fantasy too. I can't just read all this like bullshit.
Yeah, you don't want to
Life is
just be perpetually hate reading stuff.
yeah. So I'm waiting on the Lost Metal from my library. Um, I'm trying to get through the Ranger's Apprentice, which I think is actually pretty decent, fun, and wholesome, like YA series.
Cool.
And also, I've been reading like The Wheel of Time, getting back into actually reading it and getting it so that we can actually get back into the books here.
Sweet.
So, yeah, did you have any plugs that you wanted to pass along?
Yep. People watching should check out my YouTube channel, Mindgasms, and Dusty and our fellow fantasy nerd friend Tristram. We do fantasy chats a lot, and next week, probably Dusty and Chris and I, who we often do podcasts with, are gonna finally talk about, basically do a season 1 review of House of the Dragon and talk about episodes 7 to 8 in particular, but still an overall review. And yeah, check out the last video that I did was about how I surprisingly actually agreed, for the most part, with Ben Shapiro, the conservative pundit, who I often criticize about it being primarily a good thing that Elon Musk let Trump back on Twitter, although I don't think that he actually did it for noble reasons, and I don't like the reasons that Ben Shapiro has for it, but I'm surprisingly agreed with him about the sentiment of it, and I thought it would be a good idea to talk about that because I criticize him a lot and I don't want to get too polarized and tribal. So check out all that, and I'm also going to probably tomorrow release a clip from Dusty and Chris and I talking about Alexander Dugin, who's the Russian intellectual who's been called Putin's brain, although his influence on him is questioned by some people, but he has said some violent and authoritarian shit, and people disagree about whether he's a postmodernist or right-wing reactionary. And it's a clip where Dusty and I are talking about whether Alexander Dugin is kind of like a Russian, smarter version of Jordan Peterson, who studies more philosophy and less religion. So yeah, check out all that stuff and other future things and past things on Mindgasms.
Sweet. All right. So as far as I am concerned, because I've been sick, I haven't produced any of my reviews, and I'm sorry about that, everybody. It's just I haven't had the voice, and you can even hear now that my voice is actually starting to go away again. Yeah, I'll get back into it. That's for sure. I'll get back into the short reviews on the books that I'm reading from the top fantasy lists for 2021. Probably gonna have to start doing the one for 2022 next year, as they do a list every year of the top fantasy. But yeah, I'll continue to do that. And yeah, go ahead and like and subscribe. Make sure you click on the bell notification. And also, I know a lot of people really liked my review of Gardens of the Moon.
Yeah, that was good.
I will be doing some more of those because I know you would like to do some joint discussion.
Yeah.
But I'll also do like my little short mini reviews as well for that. And I want to try to keep my mini reviews spoiler free. And then on when we have our discussions, we'll have the spoilers.
Good idea.
So I'll just give like general overview, spoiler-free overviews, and then we'll do like our little joint ventures when we're talking about this with Tristram. Did Tristram say that he wanted to get in on the Malazan discussions?
Yeah, for sure. Didn't you see when I asked when I was telling him that you and I were talking about how it would be fun for the three of us to discuss it? He said, "I'm ready," and showed a screenshot of all of the books in the series on his shelf.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so he's well ahead of us.
Yeah.
When it comes to reading, we've only read the first book. We're noobs in the series, so
yeah. We both like it so far.
Yeah, so far it's really good stuff. I'm liking Steven Erickson's writing style.
Me too.
But yeah, go ahead, like and subscribe, share. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this book. If anyone has read this book, I would love to hear your ideas. Please, in the comments, let me know what you think of Faith of the Fallen. Let me know, do you think I should read more of these books on my own? Do you think I should just quit while I'm ahead? I remember one day after reading the first book, and I went to a Reddit thread, and it was the Our Fantasy thread. I was like, okay, I've read the first book. Do you think I should read the rest of the series? I got an overwhelming, oh, you should stop at the first book. But I did not. I did not stop there. I did go on. But hey, I respected the journey. I don't think I shit on Good Kind too much. I think I was really fair with him, and I could have been sitting on him the whole time, but there were some moments in a particular book that we both liked, so it's not all bad. But yeah, join us, and I'll keep you guys up to date. I'm gonna try to do a mini review this week. Hopefully, when my voice will be okay by then. But yeah, thank you guys, everybody. You have a great night, and toodaloo, bitches.
Ta-ta, bitches.